You were talking about trying to keep Joe Moorhead at 2 a.m. right after winning a Big Ten championship. If there could ever be a reality show on any one behind-the-scenes aspect, other than maybe recruiting, I think just staff changes, staff hires, if the curtain could ever just be peeled back and people could see that process, how wild does that get relative to the perception people have? Because people already think it's wild, but there's no rest. Things have to change, spur of the moment, 20 times on you. How wild is it when you're trying to either keep a guy or you're going after a guy, and it's a really competitive market?
Yeah, I think it's really wild. I think people like yourself, kind of really understand what's going on behind the scenes. I think most people don't. It's interesting. As soon as I see that a guy that has a current job and the next job that's after him becomes public, it's almost impossible for that guy to get the job or take the job. That happened this year. I kind of watched it closely with a coach, and he kind of really had to come out at some point. It drug on, his name kind of get mentioned, and it kind of drug on to the point where the team finally is like, what's the deal? Are you in or you're not? And the fans get tired of it, and the media gets tired of it. And the problem is I think most guys are good guys and they want to do it the right way. But what people don't understand is sometimes you're put in a very difficult position. And you want to be honest. But the other thing is sometimes something changes.
Yeah.
You felt like during the negotiation you were going to get this. You didn't get it. And now that changes the lens on how you're looking at the job. And I try to be as transparent as I possibly can, with the guys here, because the other reality is sometimes that conversation is going on to help the players and to help the program, because maybe this place is resistant to doing some things that they need to do to move the needle, and sometimes this helps.
I mean, it's not been all that long ago that the USC job's open. Your name's out there. Lincoln Riley ends up being the head coach. But I remember at the time thinking to myself, I don't really care how that turns out for him. It's going to be good, because you're either going to go somewhere where you wanted to go in that scenario, or you're going to get some checks and some boxes maybe that you needed. And I don't know if players are aware of that necessarily, or it's not even in their lane, but I remember watching that this last time around with you from afar, down in Nashville, just minding my own business and thinking, that's got to be going on behind the scenes. And you pretty much say, yeah, it was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think what happens to a lot of times, and it obviously depends on the guy, and I know this is probably going to sound weird coming from where I'm sitting, but I think if you're trying to be the highest paid coach in college football or your own conference or those types of things, and that's what drives you, then yeah, that's going to be one of the boxes you check. But really, for me, it's always been, how can I put myself, my family, my team, my coaches in the best position to be successful? And I remember being at Vanderbilt with David Williams, who was the athletic director, who I got a ton of respect for. David was like a father in some ways professionally to me, and passed away a few years ago. But I remember working with David, and he was happy that this was happening, because things that he knew we needed, it allowed him to go to the board and have conversations. So it was kind of like we were working together with it. And I think, it's a compliment, right? I think it's a compliment to the current coach. It's a compliment to the program. Obviously, the program is healthy and thriving. So, hopefully you're in a position where you can have honest conversations with people and dialogue. But I do think during the season, more times than not, guys are focused on the job. Now, maybe their representatives are having conversations, but you are focused on the job. And I think more times than not, that's an honest answer.
I could talk to you all day about this because I got fascination about it. One more question about that. So the inner workings, especially during the season, you're completely locked in on the task at hand, but yet there is that outside world, which is why you have a representative, 99% of the time at least, you have a representative. How often are you and maybe an average coach in contact with your representative during the season? Is it a weekly thing? Is it a daily thing? Because I don't think hardly anyone in our audience would have insight into that world.
Yeah, I think it's like anything else, right? I think every situation is different, and I think some coaches and ads have had enough and agents have had conversations in the off season. Hey, I do not want to have these conversations. You manage it, and if it's something where you can't manage it any longer and you got to come to me about something, then we'll do it. But I think more times than not, literally during the season, you're letting somebody handle that. Now, I think when you get into that bowl season and it's getting later in the year and decisions have to be made, then I think maybe a conversation, at least is had.
Yeah.
But I think more than not, like for myself, I want to be laser focused on the season, and I want somebody else handling those conversations. And hopefully those conversations are happening not only with the schools that are calling about you, but with the current administration from where you're at. Again, if it's a healthy situation.